because there'll be a little delay from the Zoom to the Facebook Live. So go ahead and go live now. Smaller so I can see both of my things. All right, we are ready whenever you are.
All set?
We're all set.
Okay. Good evening, and welcome to the Clayton County District 1 Candidate Forum sponsored by the Democratic Party of Clayton County. I am Sukari Johnson. For those that don't know me, I'm the chair of the Democratic Party of Clayton County. First, let me tell you a little bit about the Democratic Party of Clayton County. Democrats, us as Democrats, we're dedicated to improving the lives of Georgians, and this is reflective through the ideas of party platforms. The Democratic Party of Clayton County works year-round to elect Democrats that share our values of strong middle class, integrity of government, and equality and justice for all Clayton County. Let me introduce you to our leadership. Myself as chair, Rochelle Denise as vice chair, Salima Abdullah, our secretary and treasurer, Warren Thomas, our events chair, and Vonnie Battle, who is our communications chair. Absolute fabulous team. We encourage you all to help us all, Democrats in Clayton County, by doing the following: voting and taking some friends with you, volunteering with our county party, signing up for updates, following us on social media, and becoming a member. You can do that by going to our website at www.claytondemsga.com. Okay, let's get started. This election for Clayton County District 1 seat started with 10 candidates. After a special election on September 21st, we have 2 candidates heading off to a runoff election October 19th at your local polling location, and then also early voting beginning October 12th through the 15th. Don't forget early voting, guys, from the 12th through the 15th from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tonight, we are honored to have with us Elena Reeves, candidate for Clayton County District 1 Commissioner. We also extended an invitation to Aleika Anderson, the other candidate in the runoff, to participate. We went above and beyond in inviting her to this forum, and unfortunately, she declined without any explanation for her non-appearance. The District 1 Commission election is critical and important and will shape the direction of Clayton County Board of Commissioners. We are thankful that Ms. Reeves understood the importance of this forum and is with us this evening. Now our Vice Chair, Rochelle, will go over the ground rules for this evening.
Good evening, everyone. We've got a couple of ground rules for you. First and foremost, thank you so very much for your time and your attention, for being here this evening. Ms. Reeves will give first a 2-minute opening statement, followed by a series of questions around political acumen, fiscal responsibility, vision and leadership, and community involvement. We will allow some time at the end for audience questions. Please type your questions in the chat. And for those of you watching on Facebook Live, please type them in the comment section. We do have volunteers that will be monitoring in both places for your questions. We will do our best to get to as many of your questions as possible, but please know, given the time of this forum, we probably will not have an opportunity to get to each and every question. Ms. Reeves will have 1.5 minutes for to respond to each question, and I will serve as timekeeper to give you a 30-second countdown. I'll probably do something 30-second countdown, as well as a time for you to wrap it up and then to stop. And then again, followed by, after we go through our questions, we will have a Q&A from the audience as time permits. Again, please type your questions in the chat and or in the Facebook comment page. For Ms. Reeves, if you'd like me to repeat the question, please by all means just ask me to do so. And you do not have to use up the full 1.5 minutes that we are allotting for you to respond to each question. As we explained earlier, we did invite Ms. Anderson to participate, and unfortunately she chose to decline to participate in tonight's forum. But without further ado, I will turn this over to Sukari Johnson, our fabulous president of the Clayton County Dems Party, to start with our questions of candidate Alaina Reaves for our District 1 Commissioner. Wait, you're muted.
Okay. First question is centered around vision and leadership. What do you see as your role as District 1 Commissioner?
Thank you, Sukari.
Oh,
Are we beginning with introductions?
Yes, sorry, you're supposed to do your 2-minute
yes,
opening
give
remarks.
your introduction.
So sorry.
Yes, sorry about
And
that.
everyone's so excited for the questions, but I would love to introduce
Go
myself.
ahead, baby.
Exactly. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Go ahead and begin. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the Clayton County Democratic Party for offering this opportunity for District 1 to hear from the candidates who are hoping to serve as their next county commissioner. My name is Elena Reeves, and Clayton County raised me from first grade to my first job to my first house. I have been raised by Clayton County, and it's my honor to have this opportunity to serve the community that raised me and nurtured me to be the woman and the leader that I am today. I went to the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies at Georgia State University and received my bachelor's in public policy. And on its most basic level, the county commissioner is the legislator and the policy maker for Clayton County. My priority is to District 1 and the Clayton County community, because this place is home for me, and to be able to help set the policy that will create the next generation of leaders in Clayton County is, again, truly an honor. But before I close with my introductory statement, I do just want to acknowledge that I'm saddened that the other candidate was not able to join us today, because I feel it is the duty of individuals who hope to serve the community to show up where not just the voters are, but all of the residents of Clayton County, to talk with them, to hear from them. And I'm here tonight, and I will continue to be here for Clayton County, because I want to show up for Clayton County residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you for that introduction. Okay, we're going to get started with the first question. The first question is centered around vision and leadership. What do you see as your role as District 1 Commissioner?
Like I was saying, the county commissioner on its basic level sets the policy, they set the tone, and they set the vision for what Clayton County will look like for the next 5, 10, and looking at the budget for the next year. And what I've heard on the ground from District 1 residents, what they want to see in their community are quality of life issues, being able to see more sit-down restaurants, being able to walk down the street where the grass is cut and the sidewalks are maintained, being able to safely drive through their community without added congestion from an influx of trucking facilities and warehouses. So the main responsibility of the county commissioner is to make sure that we're balancing the priorities and the needs of the residents with making sure that we are bringing in economic growth, but not doing that not doing that without prioritizing those who live here now.
Great, great, thank you. Second question. What are some key benchmarks you will use to define and measure successful governance?
One of the questions that I get asked often is, during the first election, I talked a lot about how I am a community organizer. I am someone who has been on the ground in Clayton County since my years of being a Girl Scout, and being an elected leader, being a servant to the community is about making sure to be responsive to the needs of the community. So the benchmarks to ensure that the county, the District 1 residents are heard, are having and continuing those conversations, showing up at HOA meetings, having those conversations and inviting, inviting residents to the Board of Commission meetings. Just last night, I sat at our first MARTA Citizens Advisory Board meeting, and I broadcast the entire meeting live on my Instagram and solicited questions and asked those questions in the meeting, and was able to get those questions answered. It's really about bringing the community to where the decisions are being made, and that's something that I have done continuously throughout my life, and something I am committed to do as your next county commissioner.
Okay. Third question. What do you see as the most pressing issue within your first year in office?
I've talked a lot, and I won't nerd out about zoning policy and really making sure that the community has the opportunity to review the zoning maps. And a lot of the frustration that I'm hearing from residents, particularly in the Ellenwood and Rex area, is about this influx of warehouses, about the influx of logistics centers. And so if we look at the zoning maps, you'll see that those areas, Ellenwood and Rex, they're particularly zoned for light and heavy industrial and manufacturing. So being able to review those zoning maps and in that process, including the community and soliciting that input. So that District 1, and as this review takes place, that all of Clayton County can say, this is what we want. This is the vision that we see for Clayton County in the next 10 to 20 years. And that starts with what the zoning maps dictate.
Okay. Next question, to piggyback on the previous question. There has been a request from developers to appeal new zoning opportunities to make changes in commercial and residential corridors in many of the districts in the county, including District 1. What is your position on proposed zoning changes within District 1 concerning logistics centers, retail development, housing, or other commercial development?
Thanks, Sukari, for that question. That was a long question. Do you mind repeating it one more time?
What is your position on proposed zoning changes within District 1 concerning logistics centers, retail development, housing, or other commercial development?
Just as I said at the beginning, we have to prioritize the residents who currently live in Clayton County. And I can tell you one of the #1 concerns that I hear, whether it's knocking on folks' doors, calling them over the phone, folks are saying no more warehouses. There are warehouses that are in the pipeline to be constructed. However, looking into the future, as we're looking at the zoning, let's find the ways to incorporate more retail. Let's find ways to incorporate more mixed use development. And really making sure that we are listening to the decisions of the Planning and Zoning Board, because the Planning and Zoning Board is comprised of residents of Clayton County who are representing, their neighbors, their family, and their friends to make sure that Clayton County reflects the priorities and the needs of the residents who live here currently, and making sure that we're looking into the future. Clayton County is is the youngest county in the metropolitan area. Our average age is 32. So we want folks to grow in Clayton County. And that means we need to look into the future. What does the next 10, 20, even 30 years look like here?
Okay. This question is centered around fiscal responsibility. What do you see as your fiscal role in policymaking as a commissioner?
That's such an important question. As someone who has been on the ground talking with voters for years, explaining this is what this elected official does. This is the roles and responsibilities, distinguishing what a congressperson does from what school board member or city council member or mayor does. One of the main responsibilities of the county commissioner is to set the budget for the entire Clayton County. That includes all the county services, whether that is the police department, the fire department, the office of emergency management. We have to make sure that the priorities that are reflected in the budget completely align with the needs of Clayton County residents. So the budget process, we need to make sure that we're bringing Clayton County residents to the table. And sometimes that means going into the community, attending HOA meetings, hosting community forums. I'm looking forward to, we have a schedule of meet and greets where I will be talking with individuals, as I look to earn their vote. That's something I want to continue doing. That's not a conversation that ends once the election is over. That is a conversation that is ongoing. The budget is set. The budget conversations begin at the beginning of the year and is set in July. That's 6 months of conversations that we can be having with Clayton County residents regarding what their priorities are, what they want to see in the budget, and facilitating those conversations.
Great. When we talk about community involvement, what has been your community involvement before seeking the seat for District 1 Commissioner?
So I'm a resident of the city of Morrow. I bought my first home here 3 years ago. And as soon as I got to really replant my roots in Clayton County, I was appointed to the Urban Redevelopment Agency, and we've done some incredible community involvement through our board. The city of Morrow just had a grand reopening for the community gardens. Over the summer, there was the Food Truck Thursdays hosted twice a month that really engaged the community and also brought in Clayton State students and making sure that the Clayton State University community feels their presence is felt in Morrow, in Lake City, and in Forest Park. As I mentioned, I served on the Citizens MARTA Advisory Board, and making sure that public transportation continues to be a priority when we talk about accessibility, when we talk about convenience, and when we talk about mobility throughout Clayton County. We have to make sure that we are including the individuals who don't have access to cars, maybe folks who are too young to have their driver's license, or as we get older in our age and we no longer want to drive, being able to have an option to move around the community. So those are some of the boards that I've served on, and I have been very active with the Democratic Party here in Clayton County. I've served as the president of the Clayton County Young Democrats, one of the largest voting blocks in Clayton County. It's often overlooked that young people vote in Clayton County. As I mentioned, we're the youngest county in the metro, and making sure that residents have the opportunity to engage with their elected officials. So that includes voter registration, that includes voter education. As we're seeing changes to the voting laws here in Georgia, it's critical that if we want more folks to come out and vote, we have to make sure that we're informing them on how to make their voices heard at the ballot box and even after the elections are over.
Right. Next question. This is around vision and leadership. What will you do to ensure a collaborative approach in developing a concrete vision for the county? Example, commissioners, city council, and the state legislature.
That's a great question. So in Clayton County, we are fortunate to have representatives who reflect the diversity of Clayton County. We are a majority minority county, and we are one of the few places where our elected officials look like us. And I mean, we have African-American elected officials, we have Latino elected officials, we have Asian American elected officials here in Clayton County. And so being able to work alongside the other commissioners throughout the county, but also with our school board. We have some of the highest performing schools in the state of Georgia, and we need to make sure that we are spreading that message when we talk about economic development and we talk about being able to recruit those high-paying jobs. Well, when those high-paying jobs are coming to Clayton County, they want to make sure that if they're bringing in their workers as they're hiring workers here, that there are quality schools, that there are grocery stores, that there are restaurants. Those are conversations that have to be had across the different elected officials and elected agencies in the county. So whether that's working with the mayors, who I'm fortunate to have great relationships with many of the elected officials in Clayton County, because I have been in Clayton County working alongside them, whether it's at the with the state legislators, working at the state capitol, whether that's working with the Board of Commissioners, or working with our city councilors to make sure that they're hearing from the voices of the residents.
Okay, great. Next question, centered around, again, vision and leadership. How do you integrate the goals and objectives of District 1 with the vision and mission of the county?
I love that question. What I hear is, how do we make sure that residents feel like their voices are heard? It's some of the frustration that I hear from folks as I'm going into their communities, as I'm knocking on their doors and having those conversations with the District 1 residents I hope to serve as county commissioner. I hear their frustrations. I hear what their priorities are. So making sure that that I continue to have those conversations and fold them into the decisions that are made on the county commission level.
Okay, great. Last question from us. It's around community involvement. How will you engage with the citizens of District 1, in District 1?
First, I'll say I will continue having the conversations with District 1 residents at their doors, over the phone, attending HOA meetings, hosting neighborhood meet and greets. So smaller community gatherings that take place just in your neighborhood. Because if I am your representative, if I am your voice on the Board of Commissioners, then I want to be able to come to your neighborhood and look around and see what you see when you walk out of your house every day. I also want to make sure that we're incorporating this digital space that we have. We're on a Zoom platform right now. This forum is being streamed on Facebook Live. So there are folks, some of them are home, some of them are still at work. Don't let your bosses catch you on Zoom asking questions, but being able to make sure that people have every opportunity to engage with their elected officials means bringing the conversations to them. And again, showing up for the conversations and being able to listen to them.
Great. Thank you. Rochelle, do we have any questions from the chat?
We have a couple from the chat and one that I want to go back to that actually ties into one of the questions from the chat. As many of you know, the Board of Commissioners is contemplating developing a policy regarding mandatory trash collection for residents in unincorporated Clayton County. What is your position on mandatory trash collection?
That is a split decision that I have heard from folks. I hear some people say no mandatory trash collection, and on the converse, I hear folks who say I pay for my trash collection. My neighbor doesn't. I want to make sure that their trash is being collected. This is a conversation that should ultimately be decided by the voters of not only District 1, this is a countywide decision that needs to be made. This needs to be brought to a vote, and the input needs to be solicited by the voters of the community, particularly the residents in the unincorporated areas. Now, I do believe one of the ways that we can address some of the illegal dumping that's happening, particularly in District 1 on Forest Parkway, on Grant Road. I know there are folks who are nodding in the audience who are like, yes, yes, I've seen that. How do we fix that? Let's talk about bulk trash collection. That's something that Clayton County doesn't currently have. We do have a landfill that is available, but if we want to make sure that our communities are safe and healthy, and that we have a community that we can look around and be proud of, let's make sure that we're providing every opportunity for trash collection. But for mandatory trash pickup, that is a decision that needs to be left to the residents of Clayton County, because this is a priority for the residents of unincorporated Clayton County.
Great, thank you. One of the questions that came in from the chat was, how would you go about recruiting? And you kind of alluded to this a little bit about our younger demographic here, but how would you go about recruiting and training young people in Clayton County, and more specifically, keeping them here in Clayton County?
Yeah. So Clayton County, as it stands, we have some excellent training opportunities. We have through the Clayton County Public Schools a pathway for students to take college level classes while they're still in high school, and to receive certifications and come out of high school with sometimes their associate's degree or a certification, so that they can immediately start in a well-paying job. I think we also need to make sure that we're advertising those training opportunities that already exist, and to also look into, apprenticeship opportunities. We have a state-funded university in Clayton County, right in District 1. Like I said, I live in Morrow. Clayton State is literally in my backyard. So making sure that we are connecting our young residents, and sometimes that means high schoolers, and that also means individuals who have graduated high school or received their GED, and making sure that individuals in that age range, 25 and under, that they also have the opportunities to get certifications, get connected with apprenticeships and opportunities to earn well-paying jobs here in Clayton County.
Awesome, thank you. What can you do? I've got 3 or 4 other questions from the chat. What can you do as a commissioner to place moratorium on the influx of dollar stores or discount stores? And I would add to that tire shops
and Dollar Generals. I don't want to pick on any particular stores. Having growth in Clayton County and having stores that provide groceries and, sorry, I can't think of the word that I'm thinking of, is great. I want to make sure that we're prioritizing recruiting a different tier of stores. I know there are folks who have been asking for Whole Foods when we start talking about grocery stores, and that's a hard get in a short term. But what we can do about some of these smaller box stores is the Board of Commissioners and working with the mayors and the city councils throughout Clayton County, just discussing how many small box stores we need and where they're located throughout the county. I know that's been a topic of conversations, and I'll go ahead and jump the gun for anyone who includes gas stations in that conversation. You know, what are we doing about the influx of these smaller box stores, and also the number of gas stations that we're building. You know, when we go back to zoning policies, when we go back to the planning and zoning board, when we go back to community input, it's questions like these that we need to continue to have to say. Clayton County District 1 residents said that they don't want to see another Dollar Tree. All right, I'm here, I'm listening, heard. And not to pick on Dollar Tree or Dollar General, I also want to say that. Okay.
Or any of the discount stores, understood.
Yes.
One thing this is another question in the chat. One thing that I have not seen are candidates visiting apartment communities. Assuming there is some form of a solicitation rule, how do you combat that and connect with these voices who may not be familiar with you beyond a sign, especially if they're not active on any social media platforms?
That's a great question. I mean, I've often said to folks, I'm not here to advertise to anyone. Yes, I have yard signs out, but I am out and my team is out. We are on the ground. We're talking to folks. We've been to apartment complexes. I live in a condominium neighborhood. So I am all for multifamily housing. And to be quite honest, it's easier to knock on doors in an apartment complex in a condominium community because the doors are closer together. So trust me, as someone who has the worn shoe leather to prove it, we have been knocking on doors in apartment complexes. We have been reaching out to as many voters as possible. Like I said, my background is in voter education. One of the facets of my campaign is making sure that there is an understanding of what county commissioners do, listening to what the residents want to see in their community, and having a conversation about what community residents want and how and if the county commissioner can implement the changes they want to see in their community. So short answer to your question is we have been in apartment complexes. If there is a particular neighborhood that you want us to come visit, please go to my website, alainaforclayton.com, and put in a request. I would love to come to your neighborhood and talk with you, host a meet and greet with you and your community.
Thank you. Another question from the chat. Our millage rate is the highest ever. What do you suggest needs to happen to lower the millage rate?
That is a great question. I also want to incorporate include our tax commissioner, which yes, his title is commissioner, but he does not sit on the board of commissioners. I would include the tax commissioner in that conversation on what can be done to decrease maybe not decrease the millage rate, but to have those conversations about the millage rate increases and how that affects your property taxes and how that affects your adjustment. Look, I'm a homeowner. So I get that letter in the mail that says you owe this much money because of these changes. And one of the ways that we can bring more tax revenue into Clayton County is bringing in one of the things folks are asking for: restaurants, sit-down restaurants, more retail big box stores. And when we bring in that mixed development of retail and fine dining, we are making sure that we're keeping the tax dollars, our sales tax dollars, from individuals who typically go out of Clayton County. They go to Atlanta, they go to Henry County, some of them go to Fayette to do their grocery shopping, to do their household items shopping, but also date night, eating out. When we keep our sales tax dollars in Clayton County, then we're shoring up our tax revenues, and we're shoring up the money that is coming back into Clayton County. So that doesn't address your your question on the millage rate, but that is an opportunity to make sure that we're keeping the money in Clayton County.
Perfect. I've got 3 more questions, and then we're going to do our closing statement and wrap. This is from the Facebook feed. If opportunity presents itself, what would be your criteria to appoint board members on certain boards, especially the zoning board?
Yeah. That is a great question. One of the things that I love to tell community residents is that the Board of Commissioners, as your next county commissioner, it is my responsibility to appoint individuals to boards and advisory groups. For individuals who say, I want to be able to give input on what happens in Clayton County, I say there's an outlet for that. There, is a board for that. The library board, the mental health boards. I mentioned I'm on the MARTA board. I'm passionate about public transit. So whatever your interest is about, wanting to be that voice in your community, there's likely a board or an advisory group where you can have that input. And it's a great opportunity to engage with community residents who want to be engaged and who want to have that input in their community. So being able to appoint them to a board, that conversation looks like an interview. It looks like a conversation on background, on qualifications for particular for particular boards. And in some cases, it might look like a public interview, and it might look like soliciting input from other members of the community, because individuals who serve on boards, those decisions come to the Board of Commissioners. Those decisions go, affect policy that is made on a county level. And so those are critical seats, and we have to make sure that we're judicious about those appointees, and also transparent about the individuals who serve on those boards.
All right, last 2 questions. Given, and this ties back into your service on the MARTA Citizens Group, what would you do to increase access to mass transit and to walkable, bikeable paths in Clayton County?
I love that question. Have y'all seen me biking? I bike down Jonesboro Road.
Yeah.
It's incredibly dangerous.
Seen you.
I have long been advocating for more bike lanes, and I have seen folks on scooters and someone on a skateboard, which is pretty cool. But in its current state, there are many roads that are not safe for pedestrians, for cyclists, for individuals who decide to rollerblade, skateboard, or get on a scooter down the street. So having a conversation about how, as we improve our infrastructure and our roads, what does that look like to carve out some space for a bike lane? What does that look like to make sure that our sidewalks are accessible? As someone who is a cyclist, and sometimes I am on the sidewalk, there are cracks in the sidewalks. I think about the individuals who, individuals in the disability community who are in wheelchairs or mobilized scooters. And those individuals, if they're riding along the sidewalk, how it's also dangerous for them. So having a conversation about sidewalks, about bike lanes, about pedestrian safety, that's about accessibility for everyone. And when we start talking about public transit, we're also talking about cleaner environment, because we're getting less cars off the road, which also addresses concerns around congestion. So a lot of these things are tied together, but we have to make sure that we're having those conversations, and that we're also talking through the vision of what Clayton County is going to look like. And when we get questions about bike lanes, and when we get questions about from the disability community about accessibility, then we're building a Clayton County that is beneficial for everyone, because we've heard from everyone in Clayton County.
All right, one more question. In 2020, The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Clayton County government had violated the Civil Rights Act of 1964's prohibition on sex discrimination by discriminating against a gay man who worked for the county. If elected, would you support passing a comprehensive non-discrimination ordinance which protects against discrimination in employment, public accommodations, and housing on the basis of sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression, homelessness, and other categories? And I understand I'm going to add my own editorial comment to this, that this is not just an issue for Clayton County. It kind of goes beyond that. It really dips into state legislation. But if you would provide your thoughts on that.
Of course. Short answer, yes. Every county, every city, every jurisdiction in Georgia and in this country needs to have non-discrimination ordinances. That particular case, Bostwick versus Clayton County, was a landmark Supreme Court decision. And when we talk about shaping the narrative of Clayton County, it absolutely breaks my heart that we were named in a landmark Supreme Court case, not for something positive, but something that was shameful and negative and is a travesty, because we should celebrate people for being who they are and eliminate every obstacle and any barrier for anyone to be able to live their life freely and to not be discriminated when they look for housing, when they look for jobs, and when we live our everyday life. And the fact that we still have to have this fight in 2021 is a travesty. So short answer, yes. I fully support a non-discrimination ordinance.
Perfect. All right, very last question. I promise this is it. Y'all are just blowing up.
But I mean, Rochelle, I know you're rushing me, but we've had forums where there were 10 candidates. There were 10 candidates, and now we're down to 2. And forums go a lot faster when only one of the candidates show up.
I know.
So you're rushing, but we're
good.
We have some time left.
We have some time. So what is your strategy for ensuring corporate and business stakeholders maintain the aesthetics of their property, specifically cutting the grass, removing weeds, and trimming hedges?
Again, I'm not going to pick on any particular big box stores that don't keep up with the trash in their parking lots, or they don't maintain the grass along the sidewalks. But that is a code enforcement issue. Code enforcement sits under that is county jurisdiction, and the Board of Commissions. We need to make sure that we are utilizing code enforcement. First, it's a friendly conversation of, hey, business owner, were you aware that this is the code and you're out of compliance? And here's a list of, items where you are out of compliance. It's your grass, it's your hedges, it's vehicles, abandoned vehicles that have been sitting in parking lots for weeks. There's a warning. And then there are fines. We should expect businesses to be stewards in our community. And just as folks who live in HOA communities, the same way that you get the letter in your mailbox, or the same way that you get the very friendly email, or for anyone who is on Nextdoor, you hear the alert. Well, my neighbor hasn't done this and my neighbor hasn't done that. Guess what? The businesses and the corporations that are in Clayton County, they're our neighbors too. And we should hold our neighbors accountable, and we should expect the most of each other, because we have pride in Clayton County. And if we want to demand pride, and if we want to demand respect throughout the Metro Atlanta area, it has to start at home. We have to start, asking that of our neighbors, whether they're our business neighbors or our neighbors, so that we can go around the Metro and say, yeah, I'm from Clayton County and I'm proudly from Clayton County, which for anyone who's not in Clayton County and that's met me, knows that I am proudly from Clayton County.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that, yeah, I don't have any other questions. So Sukari, or I'm sorry, Alaina, if you would like to give your closing remarks.
Sure. As I mentioned, this was a timely forum. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the audience input. I did have to put the chat. I had to minimize the chat. The questions were coming in, and they were just great, great questions. I look forward to continuing this conversation even outside of the forum. Hopefully, at your door, maybe over the phone, maybe in your neighborhood. My goal as a public servant is to serve the community, and that means being responsive to the community, showing up where the community members are, and being open and available and accessible to hear from you, to hear what your needs are, and to be your voice and represent you on the Board of Commissions. This is an ongoing conversation. I look forward to answering any more questions that you may have. My website again is alainaforclayton.com. Please feel free to reach out. We have more yard signs. I promise I see the emails. We will get them to you. Please put your responses in the form on the website, but I look forward to continuing this conversation. Again, my name is Elena Reeves. The election is October 19th. For all of you who want to vote early, or early voting begins October 12th. You can find the locations on my website. But I look forward to, again, continuing this conversation with you even after the election. Vote for Elena Reeves on October 19th. Thank you again for having me, Clayton County Democratic Party.
Thank you, Alaina. Thank you, Alaina. Thank you, Alaina, for showing up, for being transparent, for being, for showing up for any platform, and talking to the people. We appreciate you so much. Again, we regret that Aleika Anderson did not participate in tonight's forum, but we thank you, Ms. Reeves, for your participation tonight and your willingness to run for this important office. Good luck to you. We thank you, the audience, for coming, and we remind you to vote again October 9th, and take a friend to vote too, October 19th, and take a friend to vote with you as well. Good night, you guys.
Good night. Thank y'all.
Good night. I wanted to save the questions. I want to make sure I make them available for anyone who missed tonight.
What I can do is send you I think I can send you this whole thing.
Okay, great.
Yeah, let me figure out how to do that, and I can hopefully I should be able to send you the whole presentation.
Those are great questions. Thank you again, and I will hop off. Good night, Clayton County.
Good night. Thank you.